All right, day 2, Build 2014, another excellent day. We have a few minutes here before we're going to kick off Brian Keller with Soma, which will be awesome. Brian, why don't you let people know who you are? Obviously, they know who you are. But
Right, Brian Kell on Channel 9, and I'm a technical evangelist within Microsoft, focused on developer technologies and Visual Studio, and just thrilled to be here at Build. This has been such an exciting conference so far, and we're only about halfway through it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Andrew Richards, I host Defrag Tools with Larry and Chad, and I'm a senior developer. I develop all of the code that works about how crashes and hangs happen in Microsoft.
Excellent. So why don't we kind of do, for the people who might not have seen the keynote yesterday, why don't we go through and talk a little bit about some of the highlights?
Yep.
Yeah, so I was backstage for that one, so you were in the audience. What was your impression?
Without a doubt, the phone and Windows changes both were awesome, but without a doubt, the phone change with just that swipe down at the top, and so you can get to your Wi-Fi and your airplane mode was just mind-blowing. Like, you don't have to unlock. It's just there, and when you're in that airport mode, and you just want to quickly just jump across.
Yes.
Absolutely fantastic. I also like the wallpaper transition, how you can now customize that look, and it's still kind of internal right now, but they're going to open up the API. But just that animation as you swipe down, and how the background can flip around, and very elegant.
And the app that allows you to actually build interactive lock screens as well, which is really cool. I wasn't expecting to see that one.
Yeah.
And of course, who can forget Cortana? Cortana was really cool.
Very cool.
I felt a little bit bad for those guys because they were in this big, cavernous keynote room, and they kept making commands, and some of them didn't work exactly as they would in reality. But when I was backstage playing with it myself, it was really awesome.
Yep.
They used the analogy of studying personal assistants and realizing that a lot of what personal assistants do is they keep a notebook on the executives that they support. And so they were inspired by that, and of course they have a notebook that now says that Andrew Richards likes C# and pizza, right? And so now he can get some recommendations of places that you can go code and eat pizza.
And I think the reminder thing too is awesome. Like, next time you turn up somewhere geographically, ping me. Like, when I'm at the mall, remind me to buy a present for blah, right?
Excellent.
That is just fantastic.
Totally.
I mean, how many times do you know, when I get home tonight, don't forget to do X, right? And you might send yourself an email, but you don't get around to reading it till the next morning, it's too late. You know. And things like, simple things remind me to put out the bins.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? Like, don't harass me if I'm at a friend's house, but when I get home on Wednesdays, remind me to put out the bins.
Right. Those are trash cans for those of you in the United States. We need to translate that a little bit. So we need to give a shout out actually to St. Louis, because St. Louis at the Microsoft store, they are sitting under the arch out there and they're watching us. So hello, St. Louis. Go Tigers! Tigers, right?
Yeah. Rams.
Yeah, Rams.
Football.
A few of them out there. Yeah.
Right on. Our St. Louis Cardinals.
So that was yesterday.
Yes.
That was day
what
one.
about today, which you were deeply involved with?
Yeah, I was also backstage for that one, working with the Goo, Scott Goo.
Yes.
So in his new role as EVP, we were still able to get him here for the keynote. And it was awesome because we were really talking about a ton of innovation across the cloud. And he was talking about 44 different announcements, I think is what he made.
Nice.
Everything from small stuff, but important, like better SLAs for databases, bigger databases, 500 gigabytes now.
Great.
To my favorite, which is the new Microsoft Azure portal.
Okay.
Pulls in DevOps, so lets you actually take what is previously a collection of individual resources that you would go to the vCurrent portal and manage, and now what it does is it allows you to center that around the entire application that you're managing now.
Awesome.
And so I create an application that might consist of a website and a database. I link that to a team project where I'm pulling in all the power of Visual Studio Online to get my work items, my source control repos, all of my continuous builds. I check in some code, we fire that off to the website. Just awesome
Amazing.
experience. Really highlights the future of the Microsoft Azure platform, and we'll have some of the guys who designed that platform on later this afternoon to talk more about some of the ways in which they thought about the design that went into it.
Absolutely, and of course, Anders and Roslyn, open source.
Today is an amazing day, a fantabulous day for .NET development. I mean, it was just awesome. We not only announced that you can now download the Roslyn preview and integrate that right within the Visual Studio 2013 IDE, you can start getting a sense for what C# 6 is going to look like, some of the language preview enhancements. Anders showed that off, and then just when you thought he was like, kind of could call it in and go home for the day, he's like, hey, why don't we open source this? And so he goes to Codeplex and he hits publish, and we were watching backstage, watching all the Git pull requests starting right away. So it was really exciting to see that.
Pretty intense so far.
It has been really intense. It's been awesome. People are starting to check it out and make it their own. And then, just when you thought he was done, he invites Miguel de Casa on stage. And Miguel talks about how they're making Roslyn the IDE engine of Mono and Xamarin Studio moving forward.
Amazing.
What's more amazing, Charles, is I'll share with you that these guys didn't even have the Roslyn source until about 2 weeks ago. Within 3 days, they had it working within Xamarin Studio. So
That's Xamarin, man.
Absolutely
Those
impressive.
guys are rock stars.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome.
Talking about designer, you can't forget Windows 8 update as well. I mean, it just changes the UI of Windows 8, brings a happiness feeling back to the keyboard power user.
Yep.
As a person who has 4 screens and uses the keyboard extensively, and I barely touch the mouse, there's so many gooey, beautiful points in the update that's going to make it so much easier to transition those old enterprise customers forward, particularly those people who are still Windows 7 centric. I think it's a really good story about how enterprises can now move to 8.1 and feel happy about that. And there's lots of enterprise changes too, right? VPN support on the phone and stuff like that. Great story.
Not to mention the fact that you can also take those modern apps out of the Windows Store, and you can now dock those as desktop apps and resize them, just like what we've all been wanting. And so it really gives you the best of both worlds between blending those desktop apps and those modern apps. So it's just really great.
And code at once, right, across platforms. So.
Oh yeah, of course, universal Windows apps. Yeah,
absolutely. Huge.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because this is kind of building on the evolution of portable class libraries, right? And what does this give you that portable class libraries didn't?
Well, portable class libraries gave you a subset of code you could share across platforms. Universal apps gives you a different experience to build apps in a single IDE environment with multiple projects and a shared project that could actually contain UI, right? So you could imagine building a XAML app where you use virtually the same XAML to run across very different screen sizes. And the work the XAML team has done for auto resizing and scaling and vectorization, blah, 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 is beautiful. Now, that's not the main thing that you're probably going to do as a developer. Since you have a 37-inch screen, you're probably not going to think that, oh yeah, I'll just use the same formatting.
Right.
But the way that you can sort of, the amount of work you have to do to adjust your XAML across these platforms is elegant. And again, it's about the IDE experience. I can now write file, new, universal app. I get this stuff, my various projects. I get my shared project, which is going to contain a portable class library or a subset of portable class libraries. Yeah. But it's a much more robust model, and it's beautiful. I think it's one of the biggest news items of yesterday.
I think the debuggability too. I mean, the F5, and you debugged it on Windows, you debugged it on phone, and I think they showed it on Xbox too. And it's like, how cool is that? From the same IDE, you can say, debug this and show me all the different form factors on all these different sizes at the same time, and make a decision across all 3. So you don't get focused on 42-inch screens for too long, and then forget that you have to worry about the 8-inch form factor.
Well, more than that also, because yesterday when they were announcing Universal Windows apps, you may have caught this, that Miguel from Xamarin tweeted that they are also going to support Universal Windows apps as well. So now you go from Windows to Windows Phone to, in the future, probably Xbox, to also being able to target iOS and Android with Xamarin.
Amazing.
So it's a very different Microsoft than what we've been used to over the last few years, and it's a really exciting time. The other thing I wanted to mention too is that app publishers can now give customers the option of buying the app once and then being able to run it on both tablet and phone. So that was a really cool monetization strategy, as well as the idea of being able to actually accelerate the pipeline. So they now say that when you submit your app to the Windows Store, it's now 50 times faster than what it used to be.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think when you throw OneDrive on the top of it, with all the ubiquitous storage between these devices, it's much easier just to have one app and just transition it somewhere else and continue on from where you're going. And Xbox Live does a good job with that too, with save games and stuff. You start your solitaire on your PC and you finish it on the phone. And it's what we want, right? We want this ubiquitous device-less, non-device centric world where I don't care what I'm touching, I want the experience. And I think we're driving towards that really, really well.
I mean, you might say, Andrew, that with OneDrive, the sky's the limit, really. Yeah. Right? I mean, we're just getting started here. So
so Soma's getting ready in the back. We see him, and that's going to be nice. You're going to interview him. You got some great things to talk about.
That's right. It's been a few months since we caught up, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up and take a quick break, and we'll be back with Soma, who's in charge of the developer division here at Microsoft.
Right on. We have a great show in store for you today, so I guess I don't have time to tell you what's on the calendar. So we're going to do Soma, followed by Googs. You saw him just now in the keynote with John Shushuk, followed by Anders. I would imagine you guys have some Roslyn questions, some C# 6.0 questions, some TypeScript questions. Bring those. We're going to have Cloud Cover live. You're going to dig into the new Azure portal.
That's right.
With the people who built it. And then we'll do also, we didn't mention this, the .NET Foundation panel.
Right.
The .NET Foundation panel was also something that Guthrie announced today, which is sort of we're really serious about open source, and we're going to be working with the community to keep putting stuff in to this foundation of .NET technologies.
Right.
So huge day for open source. Soma's coming, man.
All right.
Have fun.
See you soon.